This video will demonstrate the three new action buttons implemented in the new version of vList. The first new button is the Move Make-On Fittings to Loose icon, represented by a piece of pipe with an elbow, a bag with the elbow in it, and an arrow pointing from the pipe to the bag. Note that this action is specifically for moving threaded fittings that are made onto the pipe from the Weld or Thread tab into the Loose tab. It will not affect any welded fittings like flanges or welded outlets along the pipe. Once you click on this new icon, a window pops up asking if you want to move the Make-On fittings to loose from the Weld tab or the Thread tab. You can at this point select either the Weld tab or the Thread tab, or you can select both. Once you hit the Apply button, vList will move all threaded fittings in your chosen tab into the loose list while changing the original pieces to have no fitting in order to avoid duplicate fittings. The second new button is the Create Typical Weld Lines, Thread Lines, or Hangers icon, represented by two horizontal pipes where the top pipe says TYP on it. Note that this is specifically for typical lines, not pieces, so vList will only be looking at lines where all pieces are identical in the Weld and Thread tabs. Once you click on this new icon, a window opens displaying all lines in the Weld and Thread tab that are identical and any hangers that are the same. If your list does not contain any typical lines in the Weld or Thread tab or any identical hangers, you will get a message box telling you that you have no typical lines. If your list does contain any typical lines or hangers, you will instead get a window displaying all typical lines grouped by total length. You can see in this window all of the line IDs where vList found typicals. When searching for typical lines, vList takes the pipe size, pipe type, total piece length, and fittings into account for each piece. If a line ID has multiple pieces in either the Weld or Thread tab, vList makes sure that all line IDs displayed in this window are the exact same. Here is an example of what vList looks for when grouping up typical pieces. In Weld line ID CM7, there are two non-weld pieces and one welded piece. Weld line IDs CM8 and CM9, as seen here, are identical to CM7 in regards to pipe type, size, end prep, color code, lengths, and fittings. However, CM10 has one difference. CM10.2 has a different outlet than the previous three lines. For this reason, vList will only display CM7, CM8, and CM9 together without including CM10. In the same fashion, typical hangers need to be the same hanger type, same size, same length, and have all of the same components. If you have two hangers originally listed as the basic 06 rod and ring hanger, but manually added additional components to one, vList would no longer see these as typical hangers. Once you have selected the lines that you would like combined into a typical ID, hit the Apply button. You will then be prompted to name your new typical line, which will contain all pieces that were in the original matching lines. You can see that the CM7, CM8, and CM9 are no longer displayed here in the ID list. Instead, we have a typical line here named Tip 1 with a quantity of 3. Note that when this action is performed in Revit, it will update the line name tags to use the typical name as well. The third and final new button you will see is the automatically split thread or weld pieces longer than the max pipe length icon, represented by a piece of pipe with a knife over it. This action will automatically cut any pieces in your job that are over the stock pipe length into, at minimum, 2 pieces, while giving you, the user, the option to choose what fitting will be used to connect the newly created pieces. Once you click on this icon, you will see a window giving you a choice to split pipes over stock length in the Weld tab, the Thread tab, or both. Select the tab where you would like the pieces automatically split and hit OK for vList to begin the auto-split process. At this point, you will be prompted to choose the fitting needed to connect the new pieces. If you choose a fitting with a valid size, it will be added to the loose list automatically. However, if you choose a fitting that does not have a valid size in the Parts Manager, vList is set to change the make on to Yes, with the general fitting name as the fitting, to trigger a warning so that you can review the pieces. For pieces that are less than 12 inches over the stock pipe length, like a 21-foot 5-inch piece made using 21-foot stock pipe, vList will simply cut the piece in half. For pieces that are 1 foot or greater over the stock pipe length, like a 25-foot piece made using 21-foot stock pipe, vList will cut the piece into as many full stock sticks as needed with a final piece with the excess length. A 25-foot piece made using a 21-foot stock pipe would split into one 21-foot piece and one 4-foot piece, while a 45-foot piece made using 21-foot stock pipe would be split into two 21-foot pieces and one 3-foot piece. The only instance where you may see a piece not cut into a full stock length piece is if you have a weld outlet that is too close to the stock length on the original piece, such as an outlet at length 21. When auto-splitting a piece like this, vList considers the minimum cut length allowed between the end of a pipe and the center of an outlet. That's why you see on this example file, there was a piece that was 25 foot and the outlet was at 21 foot, which means there's a resulting 20-foot 5-inch piece, and then the other piece has an outlet at 7 inches, and the remainder goes to 4 foot 7 inches. With that, you should have a basic grasp of the new utilities in vList.